Welcome to the SPARK StartHer podcast, dedicated to sharing stories that ignite female entrepreneurs into action. I'm your host, Elizabeth Goede, and I'm here to fan the flame of your entrepreneurial spirit. Each week, we bring to you the inspiring stories of women trailblazers from around the world who have sparked change in their industries, powered their ideas into thriving businesses, and pioneered their way to success. So whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a startup enthusiast, or a seasoned business leader, join us as we delve into the journeys of these incredible women whose tales will surely ignite a spark in each one of us. Today, we have a very special guest who is on a mission to dismantle generational shame and empower individuals to own their sexuality and create lives on their terms. Claire Doré is a dating and relationship coach, keynote speaker, writer, dating expert, and on Dublin City FM. She does global reach and is an author. As a single divorced mother of three, Claire's personal experiences fuel her passion for helping people get out of their head and into their bodies. Claire, I'm so excited to have you today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks, Elizabeth. And it was really lovely to hear my own introduction there. Thank you so much.
It is absolutely my pleasure. My pleasure. So Claire, let's start a little bit back before you got into helping women figure out and empower people to sort of find their own sexuality and really find their own voices. What really led you to this life? I mean, it's not necessarily something that you can get an education in. So walk us through your background.
Yeah, no, so true. And I am all about authenticity. And so, yeah, I will share a bit of my story to what kind of led me here. But yeah, just to sort of rewind slightly, I actually had a career in advertising. That was you know, my corporate job. And that was in the kind of late 90s. Had an incredible time. It was when advertising was in its heyday. So
Oh yeah.
pretty much, yeah, like long lunches was a thing. And I was a pretty good expert at those. And so had a lot of fun. I left that industry to have my children. So took 6 years out. I had 3 in 4 years, 2 boys and a girl. So yeah, got married just before that as well, to my ex-husband, who I actually met in advertising. And so kind of like the really big pivotal part of my journey. So I've been an entrepreneur now for 15 years. And really that was born out of not wanting to go back to my industry, not feeling
Yeah.
drawn to go back, like that was just not feeling aligned for me, but feeling like I wanted to do something for myself, really, alongside being a mum. And that's why I started my own business, because I wanted this flexibility to be able to pick my kids up from school, but also be able to make the impact and feel fulfilled in myself, essentially. And so set out in business. This is actually my second business. So I've been coaching now for 8 years. And
Okay.
essentially, yeah, how that kind of started was very much kind of mindset coaching, confidence coaching, really empowering people. And as much as that is like, yes, I'm empowering people, actually, it's
Mm-hmm.
more than just the mindset. Now
Sure.
it's all about the embodiment of that. And my work rapidly changed when in July 21 I left my marriage after 21
Sure.
years. And that has basically caused me to, I essentially went through an awakening. strip back all of the conditioning that I was unconsciously carrying.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd been doing a lot of personal development work before that, but this was another level. It was like, yeah, just shedding skins like daily, hourly. It was like huge, huge growth. And part of that journey was realizing that I never owned my sexuality.
Oh, interesting.
And yeah, it's been a journey of really owning my sexuality. And, you know, what I have learned is when a woman owns her sexuality, she owns her voice, because there's an intrinsic link between the vulva and the vocal cords. Like, they were the same seed in the embryo, and then they split into two organs. So the voice and the vulva, like, you know, are deeply interconnected, like on an anatomy. And can't say the word, but that's the word. Thank you. So this has been my journey, and what I have kind of recognized is how sexuality is such a huge part of who you are, and being that fullest expression, being able to own all parts of yourself. And I, you know, kind of along the journey, I realized that I was carrying a huge amount of generational shame, just wasn't mine. And it was just, you know, causing me to make myself really small, like not use my voice, not own my desires, just like close it off in a box pretty much. And yeah, just through my journey, it's like, you know, I have learned ways and tools to really release this from what was being carried in my body unconsciously. And that's essentially evolved my business alongside. And so, you know, I'm very much known as a dating expert. You know, I've walked that path. I know exactly what it's like to date as a divorced woman in the modern world of dating. You know, it's very different to when I was dating, you know, like 25 years ago, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Claire, if you don't mind, I want to go back just a little bit, because you and I share something, which is I actually came from advertising agency side as well. And I am very curious, were you were you on the account side, or what was your position in advertising?
Yeah, I was actually on the media side. So yeah, you probably know the last agency I worked for, actually, McCann's. They're global.
Oh yeah, of course. Of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
I love that connection.
Oh, the big ones, you know? Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. So have you found that by having sort of your background in media and in for such a large agency as well, I mean, for anyone who's not familiar, I mean, that's a very large agency, tremendous, amazing client base. So you certainly had the opportunity to work with some really big brands. And so when you sort of went through this foray of you know, raising children and being home, and knowing that you wanted the flexibility to be able to be a part of their lives, and this is not an unusual story, you know, I mean, I think a lot of women sort of start to look at, I mean, kids, I feel like, especially when they're infants, you know, you can literally watch them grow, and then time starts like warping by, and the next thing you know, they're like little young adults, or you know, having their own kids. And so I think that, you know, sort of that self-reflection, and, you know, 6 years at home with them, and knowing you wanted to sort of have your next business, did you find that the experience that you had from the advertising side of the business actually helped you when you were founding your own business?
Yes, I think it definitely showed me what I didn't want. And how I didn't want to work. You know, the advertising industry was renowned for late nights, long pitches, you know, at the demands of the client. You didn't say no to the client. Whereas So it definitely showed me what I didn't want. Total inflexibility, that was. But I'd say the gifts from that experience were, negotiation skills,
Mm,
being, having a really clear vision. I worked with clients on that. The marketing that I got involved with my clients, it wasn't just the media. I would look at all of their communication and led projects where I was basically, running the whole kind of communication package. So understanding PR and below the line and how that all fits together. And what was the other piece? And then, yeah, the confidence, actually, I did a lot of presenting. So
mm,
speaking publicly
mhm.
was something I was used to. Um,
Sure.
don't get me wrong, having kids, has an impact on your confidence, and you almost forget that part of yourself and lose a
Mm,
little bit of your identity, right?
sure.
But it was, remembering I've done this before, right? And this has felt uncomfortable before. I can do it again. It's like reminding ourselves, right? It's like that muscle memory.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I do think it's worth sort of noting I think in the advertising world, I don't know if you referred to it the same way, because of course, you're over in the UK and I'm in the US. But it was referred to like that work hard, play hard. And it probably came up in this industry at about the same time, because it was still like when the martini lunches were still a thing. At least that's how we've referred to them here. You always knew if you were keeping a client based on the number of drinks that were had at lunch, and otherwise you knew if there weren't enough that client was probably shopping somewhere else.
That's so
But
funny.
but you think about like the nights and weekends, and I mean, people underestimate like how much work really goes into those pitches, right? Like how much effort is really spent in gaining a client. And when you sort of come from that background, you understand what it takes to get a client. When you look at sort of the coaching side of the business, you look at your podcast, your radio show that you're commonly featured on. Do you find that you've been able to find the magic serum and sauce where you found the right balance of how much effort it takes to gain a client, or how many nights and weekends you're willing to work? Tell me a little bit about how you found sort of the balance in your work.
Yeah, great question. And I'd say I've been on a huge journey with this, actually, because I think, something that I have recognized is I was carrying this conditioning to
Mm,
work hard to get results, which I think is a narrative that definitely my generation kind of grew up with. It's like, yeah, you work hard, you are busy. That's very much what I was modeled. And I
mm,
have really stripped that back. And actually,
mm,
yeah, in those days, like in advertising, it was a highly competitive market. You'd be up
mm,
against all the big agencies. There was a lot of pressure. How I run my business is complete opposite of that. Complete opposite of that. For me, it's about doing the inner work on myself,
mm,
visualization, feeling into, what it is I want to create, tapping into my feminine
mm,
intuition, being guided from that place. And that is essentially how I lead my life and my business.
mm,
Um, that wasn't how I started in business. I started with the work hard, always on, kind of always in action mode. And yeah, over time, as I've evolved, I've actually created a business that I truly desired, and that fits
mm,
around my life, which is about having lots of space. Like, I don't
mm,
have a coaching call probably until about 10:30 in the morning. That's probably the earliest. I like to do my exercise. I like to be in nature. I like to, really go inside myself. I like to dance and sing and do the things that really light me up. Those are the kind of non-negotiables in my business. Like that's part of my marketing, essentially.
Yeah, I love that. Well, since we're sort of talking about these different, different specs and in must-haves and requirements in your business, what would you say has been the most difficult thing since you started your business? What's the thing that you've sort of struggled with or?
Navigating divorce.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. And it's not just the process of divorce. It's actually everything else that comes from that. And I think, something that I really recognized and came right to the forefront, and I think why I stayed in my marriage for the length of time that I did, was I was sat in so much fear around all the things, being on my own. How would I, fear of the future? How would I manage the money on my own? My ex-husband always managed the money, right? Would my children reject me? I think there were so many things that were causing me to stay. And it's actually been navigating all those things and the grief that comes from divorce. I think, not everyone sees it as a loss, but there's a huge amount of loss. And for me, it was like nearly 3 years ago now I left. I was still grieving last week. Like some stuff came up and I was going through this whole completion again. It's like another layer. And, right now I don't have my children living with me. I never would have seen that. And so that's brought up a huge amount of grief. And I think I share that because what that has taught me is the capacity we have to be able to hold ourselves. I don't have another partner.
Right.
I haven't been I've been dating, but I haven't been fully in to being open to have that really deep relationship yet. I think I'm ready now, and I know what that looks and feels like. But I think when you suddenly go from, I realized I'd been in relationships for 28 years, and suddenly it was the first time in my life at age 48 I was on my own. And so holding yourself through every single experience has been phenomenally powerful, I realize.
So knowing that the divorce happened so recent, you had your own business for quite some time. Did you face any legal issues with your business or ownership of your business as part of that separation? Did that also play a role in your business?
No, it didn't. No, it didn't really come into it, to be honest.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
lucky.
it was all quite clean. Yeah.
Yeah. It's always, a question. I mean, you think about like having business partners, but then you think about all those extra, splitting of assets. I mean, businesses are assets. So, yeah, that's why I was
100%.
curious. Yeah. So when you think about, what business afford you, right? And having your business, and what do you think is like the best part of having your business?
The freedom.
Mm.
Yeah, the freedom it creates, the choices, the flexibility. Just being totally in tune with myself because I've created space to be able to feel where I need to be and when.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. And,
Thank you.
I think sometimes when we start businesses too, we set out with our idea of what we think the business is going to do for us. I loved you talking about, how you didn't want to do from the experiences that you had before, and how you were going to create this great, opportunity of being able to sort of do things the way that worked for you. What would you say has been the biggest surprise for you in having your business? Like what is like one of those completely unexpected things, and it could be something good or bad?
Yeah, that is a good question. I think it's birthing my book, actually.
Oh,
Yeah, I wrote a book. I'm hoping to publish it next year. But I think, I never saw myself doing that. And I think that's the beautiful and powerful journey of being an entrepreneur. It's like, you can't not evolve as an entrepreneur, because you are constantly, you know, on the edge of that comfort zone, right? Most often every day there's something that is maybe a little bit stretchy that we're doing. And so we grow at this really exceptional rate. And then suddenly it's like, oh, I'm being guided to write a book. Brilliant. Like, okay. I don't think I ever saw that I would have done that. And I was that child at school that hated English. So if you'd have asked me, like 40 years ago, will you write a book? I probably would never have believed it.
It's funny that you bring that up. I do a lot of work in artificial intelligence, and I do a lot of speaking in artificial intelligence. And one of the things I always show is sort of like this blank screen. And I'm like, this was literally the most terrifying thing I could ever see in my entire life, was the idea of a blank screen. And what AI has done for me personally is sort of like remove that fear, because I no longer have to start with a blank page. Like, AI gives me the opportunity to start with something that then I can craft and make my own. And so my question is, with writing of your book, did you actually sort of like journal and write that way? How did you go through the book writing process?
I just allowed, like, it was just a conscious stream of writing, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never forced it. It was just like, whenever I felt the desire there, I would just start writing. I never knew what was going to come out. There was no, I didn't have a structure and go, okay, right, this is, I was on a book writing, like, it was like a seminar a couple of years back, actually. I wasn't even thinking about writing a book then. Oh, actually, I was. That's a lie. I did. It was a different book, which I've never moved forwards with. I think I wrote like one chapter, but the way she taught it was all about structuring your chapters. Well, that is not how I've written a book. And I think, there's no right way. It's like, it's what's right for you, like your way,
Right.
and that's like life. It's like,
Yeah.
the choice that feels right for you is the one that is right. Okay. It's like, there's
Right.
no right or wrong. Everyone knows their path.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And so, Claire, I do want to talk about the different offers that you have within your business, especially because we started like right off in the first part of the interview talking about sort of the connection between the vulva and your voice. And you certainly are helping empower women in the sexual, area of this. Can you talk a little bit about that that offering that you have?
Yeah. Something that was true for me, and this is what I see amongst most of the clients that are attracted to me, is women have been conditioned to give.
Mm. Yeah.
And one of the things that I really teach them is how to receive, which is all deeply interconnected with sexuality and owning your voice, asking for what you want, and then allowing yourself to receive it, being in a state of being, less doing, which again has been conditioning. And yeah, I really, that's kind of like the crux of my work, is really supporting women in being open to receive and, dissolving those invisible walls that they've put around their heart space, which all comes back to conditioning and the desire to survive. And it all depends on, a woman's experience as a child. To do with how she received love.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really beautiful. I love this idea of the receiving versus, I think women is, we're sort of natural nurturers. And I think that we think about that as always, the other people first versus ourselves. And I really, really, really love that. So when you so you also do retreats, and I know you lead retreats, and I've certainly seen online some very, very beautiful sort of, I just describe them as like romantically sensual types of locations. Tell us a little bit about the what types of retreats you offer, what people could expect to what they could expect by attending one.
Thank you. So yeah, I've led 10 retreats in the last 3 years. And actually, interestingly, it was right in the middle of my leading my first retreat that my awakening started. So it's, retreat energy is powerful, is all I can say. And the women that I've taken through my retreats, the things that they kind of say to me is that I've helped them to dissolve the fear. They feel like they walk away as a different woman. They feel like they have woken themselves up and they are seeing the world with completely new eyes. And so they're deeply transformational. And I've led one-to-one retreats. I've also done intimate group retreats. I actually have one coming up in June in Berlin for one very special woman, which is all to do with receiving. It's in an incredibly beautiful hotel in Berlin. And from the moment she steps in, she will be embodying how to receive.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you do one-on-one retreats too, which is amazing. That's like the ultimate fast path to transformation, I think, is when people take advantage of those more personalized one-on-one approaches. So you have 3 children, and how do your children feel about the work that you do, just out of curiosity?
I get a mixed response. I have a mixed response. Yeah, there are days when they're like, don't want to know. I bring sex to the conversations a lot, because when I was growing up, that was taboo. So I like to normalize this because it is normal. There is nothing to feel shameful about. It's for our pleasure and not just reproduction, which is what we were educated to believe. And so so I get a mixed response on a different, every day is different. And I'm in the press and the media a lot, so often they don't actually even want to know what I'm talking about. Sometimes they do, it's like, but I think one thing I do really see is the more I expand and evolve, the deeper the connection I have with them.
Yeah,
And,
that's really
I
beautiful.
recognize. Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, no, please.
I was gonna say, something I recognize is how they are so courageous and confident in expressing.
Hmm. Yeah, that was sort of what I was going to ask when I so rudely interrupted you,
Ah!
which was what an incredible opportunity to have a mom like you and have a daughter where you can sort of, where she can learn it from the beginning and not have to learn
Mm.
it after having decades of experience the opposite way, and how what an incredible life she will have because of being able to have that voice. And I don't know if she's feeling that way right now, but I can imagine that for her
Yeah,
future.
I know, and I
Um,
believe that. I believe that. It's, what she's learning, whether she likes to hear it or not, and or, I mean, children learn through actions, right? So, um,
yeah,
yeah, I know that I'm pretty clear on my why and my purpose and the importance of sharing my truth. And so, yeah, I know the ripple effect of that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I love that, and I love the fact that your kids are sort of like, no, no, but I mean, they're gonna realize it later. So, Claire, as we come to the end of our time together today, I have sort of two last questions for you. Well, I say that it's really going to be three. So the first is, if people want to learn more about what you do and get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
So I would say on Facebook as Claire Doré here. And Instagram is the Wild Woman CEO. I have the same handle on TikTok. Um, yeah. And my website is Claire Doré, which is DORE.com.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I encourage everyone to certainly reach out and learn how to find how to receive and find their voice. In addition to that, I always ask every guest if they would give or a short phrase that they would use as inspiration for another woman who is either looking to start a business or maybe is has her business but is looking to sort of get that next little hurdle.
Mm. Yeah. And I think the most important thing I feel in business is to trust yourself and
Mm,
know that all you need to know is the first step and trust that the second one will reveal itself.
that's really beautiful. That's really
Mm.
beautiful. It's we forget about the trust, right? And the fact that we need to trust ourselves. Yeah, 100%. And then, Claire, sort of to end us today, I just want to make sure there's nothing that I skipped over that you wouldn't like to share. Is there anything else that we missed that you want to make sure that all of our listeners hear?
I think you have been an incredible host, and there is nothing more that I feel I need to share. Thank you for allowing me to share my voice and more about my journey and my work. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, it's been an absolute delight having you today. Thank you so much for being my guest here today, and to all of our listeners who have joined us on the Spark Starter podcast. It's a pleasure bringing you the uniquely inspiring stories that ignite female entrepreneurs into action. I've been your host, Elizabeth Goede, and on behalf of all the inspiring women entrepreneurs out there, I encourage you to not only dream big, but to ignite those dreams into action. Remember, every spark can lead to an extraordinary fire. So keep the spark alive for today, tomorrow, and the vibrant future beyond. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to never miss a spark. And until next time, stay ignited.